Why was Oswald there?
In Russia?
No. At the in Dallas.
He was put there by Ruth Paine.
Yeah, he gets a job. He gets a job there from Ruth Paine, who is a CIA operative. Her father ran an organization called USAID. Maybe you've heard of it. Her sister.
Yeah, it's been in the news, I think.
Her sister was a psychologist who worked at Langley, Virginia, as a psychologist for the CIA. So Ruth Paine is his handler, and Ruth Paine is given the job of handling him from George de Mohrenschildt.
Don't forget her husband.
Oh, Michael Paine.
Yeah.
Michael Paine, her husband, has a top secret security clearance for Bell Helicopter in Texas. So they were investigating communist students who were pro-Castro in the Dallas area, Ruth Paine and her husband, and they were given this assignment with. Don't forget, Oswald's wife is a Soviet agent. Her uncle, who she lived with, is the head of the FBI, or one of the high-ranking members of the Soviet FBI in Minsk.
What is the real reason? I'm reading through this. Jack Ruby was upset.
Well, his lawyer quickly came up with that the day of the killing.
Seems obvious.
Yeah, that was his lawyer coming up with that. He was upset about Jackie Kennedy, wanted to spare her the having to come back to Dallas for the trial of the man who killed her husband.
Ridiculous.
Now, keep in mind, Jackie Kennedy testified to the Warren Commission about the wounds of her husband and sitting next to him explaining what happened from a first-person account that's all been deleted by the Warren Commission and put into a file that won't come out until 2039. I'm hoping that is in the recent release of these files, for instance. It's one of the things I'm looking for, is the Jackie Kennedy Warren Commission testimony, which if you look up Jackie Kennedy and the Warren Commission, it'll say deleted and put into the archives till 2039.
You think the CIA tried to kill Trump last year?
I don't know if it's CIA, but...
I don't know if it's CIA, but somebody for sure, yeah.
Government. Let's just say government. U.S.
You
government.
say government. I mean...
Yeah, CIA is shorthand for...
CIA is shorthand for a lot of things.
Okay,
yeah.
the blob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like deep state.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We went...
I mean, look at Ruth. I mean, Ruth is over in the Ukraine. What is Ruth doing in Ukraine?
Recruiting the
and what is
gays.
Crooks doing? I mean, we still don't know about Crooks. We don't know what his phones had on them. We don't know what these foreign apps were. We don't know about his family.
There is no official story for the attempted assassination on Trump's life, and I find that to be very interesting.
Well, somebody's got to get to the bottom of this. I mean, this can't be allowed to be part of history. I mean,
I think the deep state's falling apart.
It might be.
You look at remember the Vegas shooting?
Yeah.
Still no official story there. Crazy guy with a bump stock. That there's no story. So when you look at all of these, if you look at JFK, there's an official reason why Oswald was there. There's a claim about what weapon he used. Jack Ruby was distraught. They lined these things up to create a narrative and give you the official story. Even 9/11 has its official narrative, has its conspiracies, and then you get Vegas. No idea what that was all about. People are still demanding answers, but nobody knows.
Yeah.
Not that one I would say is on the level of a 9/11 type event, but still people are saying what happened. Now you get the Crooks shooting of Donald Trump. There is no official story.
There's not even a story.
None. It's just somehow this guy got on the roof where no cops were, with a clean line of sight to the front runner for the presidency, and but for the grace of God, Trump turned his head.
Well, it's really interesting that both Ruth and Crooks both end up in commercials. The BlackRock commercial for Crooks and the other one for Ruth. And they're both part of a propaganda effort. They've both been filmed. They've both been in commercials, corporate commercials. And yet we're supposed to accept these lone nuts.
But there is no story. The reason to not have a story is there's no story to defend. So if you think about it, you could control Kennedy.
No, the reason you can't is because, I'll give you an example. There's 26 volumes of the Warren Commission. It took over a year to put what you're asking to be done right now.
And then Trump wins the presidency, so we're not going to get it.
Right. I mean, the Warren Commission, to their credit, put together a cockamamie story with 26 volumes of information. Now, granted, until Mark Lane comes along in 1964, a year later, and begins to shred the Warren Commission, nobody, as Alan Dulles famously said, no one's ever going to read this. I mean, who has read 26 volumes of the Warren Commission?
And we didn't have the internet. We had a Mockingbird media that was under control. There was only 3 channels. It's a lot easier to lock it down. Even into 9/11, the internet really hadn't caught on, and a lot of it wasn't out there. Now it's difficult, so they're better off just saying nothing. There's nothing to defend.
You know, what's fascinating about the 9/11 truth movement was that it was burned CDs, which bypassed the mainstream media narrative and created this network of individuals. So everybody remembers Loose Change, 9/11. Second edition, that was the one that really took off. I worked at O'Hare Airport, and you've got what they call zone rooms. So I worked for American Eagle Airlines, which is their regional airline, CRJs and Embraers. So there were, I think, like 5 zones. I don't know. No, it's more than that for sure, maybe 10. Each room has 5 to 10, about 10 people in it. And people would come in with CDs and hand them, like, guys, watch this right now. And some guy sitting there playing Xbox, waiting for our planes to come in. And then they put on Loose Change. And all of a sudden we're watching this documentary.
Wow.
So before the computers, internet, copyable media, 3 channels. They all said the same thing. There's nothing else to believe. Handful of newspapers, typically you're reading what? The New York Times, maybe in Chicago it's a Tribune or something sometimes. And these are, as you mentioned, Mockingbird media. They're getting their statements directly from intelligence. Even recently, we had a story where a journalist was being given his stories by the CIA. This is only a few years ago. So I certainly still think it's going on. The technique they do today, though I do think they're losing power because of the decentralization of information technology. Here's what they do, because they've done this. And anybody who knows who this individual is, congratulations, by saying their name, because they'll sue me. So they contact early 20s intern reporter. And they say, I'm with insert agency. I've got information that needs to get out. I got to blow the whistle. I will be your source. It's approved the whole way through. The intelligence individual feeding this information is doing it intentionally, targeting.
Limited hangout, yeah.
Right. This intern, who makes $35,000 a year and is living off mommy and daddy's money to pay for their New York apartment, goes to their boss and says, I was just contacted by an intelligence agent who's got private information for me. I have a source. Look at this story. Donald Trump is a Nazi. And they go, and you have this person on the record saying this. Yes. So we can run it. Yes. We're going to make $1 million. The editors are thinking, as long as I can't be sued, we are going to get rich. This article will get 2 million hits. It's going to be 50 grand. We're going to do it again. You run the story. They then come back and say, my source is giving me another story. I want a raise. I want a promotion. Done. You are now a senior field reporter, a news reporter covering intelligence. We're going to have you go out and go on TV and talk about the story because you're getting so many views. This young person is going, it's all happening for me. It's all happening for me. The CIA and the intelligence agencies are like, they will say whatever we tell them to say. The stories that we want reported, they will do because it makes them famous. Then this individual finds themselves getting a $500,000 a year salary, working for a prominent liberal magazine. Now they're working for some of the biggest news agencies in the world. Their name is appearing on every byline, and they are the foremost expert on how Donald Trump secretly works for Russia.
Yeah, no, I mean it happened. One of the files that we did pull out from the recent JFK files dump was the outing of Priscilla McMillan. Priscilla Johnson McMillan is a woman who interviews Lee Harvey Oswald in Moscow for a UPI-style news service in the hotel in Moscow. She later is the woman assigned to write Marina Oswald's autobiography by the CIA. She denied her entire life that she was CIA. She's outed by Max Good in his documentary on Ruth Paine, which came out 2 years ago, that I highly recommend to your audience.
The Assassination of Mrs. Paine.
The Assassination of Mrs. Paine?
I think that's it.
Yeah, The Assassination of Mrs. Paine by Max Good. It outs Priscilla McMillan, but the documents that I just received through the search shows for the first time that she officially was a CIA Operation Mockingbird journalist, to go to your point.
Yep, and it still happens today. I can confirm this 100%. News agencies get calls from the State Department all the time. It is routine. And the people who work for these companies talk to the State Department about their stories. And I can confirm that when these individuals are buddy-buddy with government officials, what people got to understand is this. It's not like a guy in a trench coat with sunglasses on meets the journalist in a parking garage in the middle of the night and then kicks a folder over to him and says, keep it, run the story. It's not like there's a journalist eating a sandwich, sits down at a restaurant, and the guy behind him says, if you report this news, you're going to get what's coming to you. And they're like, oh, man, oh, no. No, what happens is guy from the State Department calls the editor and goes, Jim, what's going on, buddy? We still on for that round of golf this weekend? Okay. Hey, you know that story you're working on about the thing that's going on? Please don't run that. And the editor goes, all right, consider it done. See you Saturday for a round of golf, buddy. Hey, you're getting the drinks. Hey, anything for you, Jim.
Well, don't forget the ending of 3 Days of the Condor with Robert Redford, where he turns the documents over to the New York Times and says, there you go fuck yourself. And he says to him, how do you know they're going to run it? And that's how the movie ends of 3 Days of the Condor. Standing in front of the New York Times building, thinking that he has succeeded.
Vindication.
What's that?
Vindication.
And then there's the plot twist at the end where he says, how do you know they're going to run it? Because they own the New York Times, too.
We've been talking about this quite a bit about the ideology of the modern left. And my attitude is these people espouse anti-capitalist views and things like that. But I guarantee you go to any one of these people and offer them $1 million contract, and they will balk like chickens on TV, whatever you tell them to do. They have no ideology. And that's true.
You're describing Hollywood.
Of course.
Right.
But you get these activists, right? You go to one of these activists who's out there marching in the street screaming, anti-capitalism, ooh, Trump's bad.
Deborah Winger.
And then say this, hey, we love what you do. We would pay you $1 million to say you're a reformed communist and that you love capitalism. We'll pay you $1 million a year for 10 years. We'll buy your mom a house. They're going to say yes.
Oh, you're talking about Michael Schellenberger?
I'm talking about literally all of them. Why, did Michael Schellenberger do that? Easy.
He's an interesting guy.
And people need to understand, you get this word grifter, they say all the time. It's not even, you don't even need to say that. It's that on the right, you have a challenge to overcome in faith. Going to a conservative, you can find a grifter who'll be a conservative and then be like, I've seen the light, now I'm a liberal. Sure, it happens sometimes.
Yeah, that's weird. Does that happen?
Rarely.
They go
very
from Fox
rarely,
to
right?
CNN.
It's because they have faith in Jesus. And I'm not being cute. I'm not being...
You know what? That might be true.
You go to a person and say, reject your God. No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And the right is predominantly, predominantly devout, though not everybody on the right or pro-Trump or whatever is. On the left, they're faithless.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to find people. So I would say, let's just ballpark it. 70% of the left would take any amount of money. 30% are going to be like, no, we believe in our cause. On the right, it's the inverse. 70% are, no, we believe in the cause. 30% are probably like, I was only here for money. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.